Definitely.
So I'm gonna let it down tonight.
Yeah, I might do
Yeah.
the same too. Might
I
just
feel
let.
you. Good luck. Give me good luck. Yeah.
This is so awesome. You know, we're very proud and very happy to have you here. Wow, you know, not even just about the music. You know, your message, your story as far as um, how far you've come, and how far the journey's brought you all at the same time. Wow. For those that don't know that are watching right now, well, I have Miss Nakeeba Amaniyea. Did I say that correctly?
Money, yeah.
Amaniyea. Okay, I'm gonna learn today.
Nah, good though. You in order. You're in order, and it's all good. And I'm very thankful and blessed to be here, and to be communing with you all, and to get familiar with your audience, and get familiar with for them to get familiar with me is a blessing and honor. So thank you so much.
Thank you, absolutely.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm gonna be frank. So shout out to Justice Hype, the brother Justice.
Mhm.
So he introduced me to Black Roots, and
Mhm.
he also introduced me to you as well. Um,
Yeah, man.
wow. So it's a huge, powerful message, and all at the same time, you
Mhm.
know, the vibe itself. So I like that there's a mixture, that you have a mixture of I guess you could say like roots all at the same time, and then you have Afro beats, and then you can
Yeah.
go from anywhere. Like your range is incredible.
It's thanks.
So
It's thanks.
wow. What was so to get to that, you know, we always have a journey. I like to start our watchers, our viewers rather, our listeners off with like an origin story. You know, we're two guys, we're you know, we're pretty geeky like that. We like stuff like the origin stories from like Superman, Batman and stuff like that. But you
Doc
know,
is
we
the
can still
I'm the cool one.
How you came to be.
see, you see how he does me? You see how he does me?
I'm just playing, man. I'm geek at the end of the day too, man. Geek Nation.
I mean, how
we
you came to be is important. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
the background is everything, and as African people, that's how we roll. That's how we roll. We are the original griots, the original storytellers. So when you think about your origins and your roots and how you came to be, and how it in turn impacts who you become, and how your journey and the things that happen to you along the journey impacts who you become, it's an honorable thing to share. So the fact that you all are interested in that is powerful, because it's important to know from whence you came. It's that Sankofa. You got to know where you coming from so you can know where you're going, you know? So yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess even from my end too, like what like everybody has their musical in inspiration and their artist that gives them that creative motivation. For you, what does that playlist on your end look like, and inspirations for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, my biggest influence is my mother, Sister Carol. Shout out to Sister Carol. She and I just released the single "My Jamaica" that I'm sure you guys have been connected to. It's like about a couple of days ago, and it's been creating such a buzz. She's an iconic figure in reggae music. Has been in reggae for over 40 years, Grammy nominated films. So lyrically and stylistically, she's my biggest influence. Um, so shout out to my mom for the genes as well. Um, and just setting a high bar. Like you can't come halfway. You gotta come for real. And that legacy definitely lives with me. Um, as far as other artists, I'm multi-genric. So in reggae, it could be anything from Lovers Rock with Beres Hammond and Dennis Brown and Bob Marley, of course. Just a full gamut of music that I heard growing up. When you're talking about reggae, when you're talking about dancehall, you're talking about obviously Bonte, Beanie, Spraga, the artists that gravitated towards you growing up, and then now more recently, with the vibes and the popcorn and just keeping your ear abreast of what's happening and how it resonates with people. In terms of hip hop, wow, some of my favorite rappers, obviously Nas, Lauren. Lauren's a huge influence. Latifah, Light, the whole that whole crew unit, Yo-Yo, Rage, Digger, like just how the ladies came strong lyrically, spiritually, psychologically, like they had to step consistently in ciphers with men and handle it well. And there was no token, like, you know, the Eves, Foxy, right? And Kim, and just seeing how all of them articulated how they wanted to bring forth the music. But Lauryn Hill is a big influence of mine in terms of women in hip hop. And now more recently, you know, I think that people are coming with different styles, and sometimes you hear an artist and you don't really know when they start spitting. You're like, oh shoot, I didn't know you had that. I didn't know that was in your arsenal, because sometimes people think they have to produce what they think people want to hear. And so shout out to all the artists that's doing it, and doing well. In terms of soul, you know, Stevie Wonder, R&B, Mary, like just cultural influences, iconic influences that come up. So my playlist varies. Right now, in terms of new age artists who I'm listening to Her. I'm listening to Lucky Day. I'm listening to Sir. You know, I like Chica. I like 3D Not T is crazy.
Yes.
Nuts. Bars on bars on bars. I'm definitely listening to Cyrock and Rhapsody. Shout out to those queens. And you know, just stylistically, I like how people come on. I like when they because I move in and out of genres so much. It's interesting to me when I'd hear a different kind of sound or a different kind of approach. So it pulls me in, and I stay being charged by that, like sharpen, you know, iron sharpens iron. So shout out to all the artists that are doing it and doing it well. I like Megan Thee Stallion too. I think I watched her Tiny Desk and she was just magnetic. There's something about her that was like, yo, pulling me in. Her energy and her vibe is really, it pulls you in. So shout out to her and heal up and blessings to her and perpetual healing for her and her situation and stuff like that.
Wow, you know, I gotta say this to you. You know, you definitely give love. Like you seem like you give a lot of things that are due, but all at the same time, you know, when we give stuff that's undue, you know, we get considered as the nice guy, the nice girl, and stuff like that. Have people usually said that about your personality? Like you're just very giving and very gracious all at the same time, but still walk with a lot of humility. Like that's the air that I'm getting from you.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, and I received that. That's powerful. I just think everybody has something to offer,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes we utilize rubrics that are outdated and don't really apply in the same ways. And that doesn't mean that they're not valid. I think everything that everybody sees and appears to present has validity, but there are different rubrics now. And you know, dinosaurs die. So if you want to use the same rubric that you've been using all along to judge and to look at things, and then from a spiritual perspective, people bring their own energies to the table. And so I like to look at things from that way. And bars are just bars. Like when you got it, you got it. And if you don't, you don't. And I know as a writer and as a poet, I know what speaks to me. I know when I hear a story by Nas, the metaphors and the different levels of delivery and how, you know, the ideas are intertwined are always like kind of pulling me in. And so I think that, you know, just like when you eat food, there's a listening palette. Like you listen to certain people to get certain kinds of energies, and some of it can be monotonous at times too. It could be like the same kind of sound. Like, okay, this is the industry sound. This is what's happening right now. And that can be really, that can be very, very much like a prison for an artist. And it doesn't allow for expression, and it doesn't allow for freedom, because there's so much tied to getting on and to being heard.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. So when you're in writing mode or just in production mode, your creative space, if you will, do
Right.
you kind of just turn everything off, or do you still listen to other artists? Do you still watch TV? Like, how do you go about that?
That's a good question, man. A friend of mine was talking to me about that the other day. Uh, it depends on what kind of writing mode. If it's like a response to an experience, I
Hmm.
sit with it for a minute and absorb it. And I listen and I listen and I'm watching and I'm observing. And then when it comes out, it's like I'm throwing up. It's just, if it's a response, if it's something that I've seen, I'm observing, or a situation that I want to speak about, it just depends. There are writing sessions when you're working with an artist, or you're working on a particular thing and you in the studio and boom, it's there. The whole song comes out in like 5 minutes. So it just, I actually love that about my process. My process is very organic, and it's not cookie cutter. It's not like, all right, boom, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, hook, bars, pre-hook. It's very organic. And sometimes I sit with something and I hear it later and I'm like, I'm gonna put that in here and I'm gonna take this out. I hear a different harmony, I hear a different intro, so I'm free with my process like that. But I know when it feels right. Because I've been around music for so long. So it's like, I just know. I know when it's a go and I know when it's a no. So I'll be like, nah, that's not gonna make it, or that's not quite ready yet. That's like 85% ready. Yeah.
So
Dope,
what are
dope.
one of the songs that you could recall or you could think of that just kind of just flowed, like you just mentioned, in no time, that came from that experience that obviously empowered the creation of it?
Um, More recently, while working on the Black Roots album, we did a song called No Limit, and we did it just like that. It came out that I heard the harmonies, I heard the melodies, I heard the conversation. It's like a conversation between a man and a woman about their love. And it's hip hop, it's R&B, it's smooth. That kind of just came out. The song that I just recently released, My Jamaica, also came out. But I had to sit with it because I had to think about what does My Jamaica entail. It's like a juxtaposition between my mother's Jamaica, how she grew up, and my own Jamaica growing up, for the most part in Jamaica, Queens, South Side, stand up.
Yeah.
Um, so being that there were like a lot of similarities, I had to sit with what I saw walking in and out of the hood, how I felt protected, how I felt nurtured, how I had to get low sometimes, like all the different things. I talk about Sean Bell in there, and being very closely connected to that when that happened, and that also having a lot of resonance with what's happening in our current time, or being brought to the forefront, right? Because being Black, this is our reality every day. This is just the people on TV being able to tap in and turn on, and it being in front of their face. But that trauma has triggered us from day one, because that's the skin that we're in. That's the life that we live. So it just depends. But when it's flowing, I just try to catch it, catch the goal, and just because it feels like it comes from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the stuff that you had mentioned that you know we're all living through, that we can all see clearly. It doesn't matter what area that we're in. You know, it's all affecting us and whatnot. What would you offer? I think this is going to be something that I just want to ask everybody that I come in contact with. What would you offer as a solution for healing right now? Because as a nation, we can do one thing, but
Right.
as a community, you know, as a community, as far as human beings, let's put it that way. What could you offer as a solution for healing?
That's a powerful question. I actually professionally, outside of music, do work as a consultant, on race-based and equity issues. So this is like my life's work as well. As a Black community, though, centering Blackness, I believe that we need to really do a lot of relearning. There's a lot of things that we've embedded in our practice that haven't served us. And we have to look at those things with a critical eye and return back to our communal sense of looking out for one another, repping for one another, holding each other down, and really make a significant commitment to knowledge of self. I feel like once you have knowledge of self, if I have knowledge of self, if I have my own self compass, whatever's happening around me can only impact me so much. And that's not to discredit or disavow the impact overall of systemic racism and white supremacy. Those things are real and relevant. But as I arm myself and I arm my young people that I work with daily, and I arm my own children, I try to arm them with a sense of self so that they understand you are royalty in a world that is misguided. And so you can put on the proper lens that you need to put on to navigate that. But I think sometimes we so embedded in other people's ideas about us and not really given opportunities to name our own story and to name our own history and to name things that resonate with us, because we're told that alignment and assimilation is what equates to success. And that's like something that I'm blessed to be able to have grown up around in Pan-Africanism and certain kinds of enlightenment. So it's not a far stretch for me or my family to be able to engage in that. We need us. We need us. We need each other. We need to be able to dialogue and allow for compassion and our hurt feelings to not just guide us to be wilding on one another. Because we all we got. Straight up. We all we got. We are all we have.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, Doc.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jasper.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, Doc, because at the same time, man, there's a big part, just in the music alone that can really, move mountains in our community. I mean, at the end of the day, man, in the African American community, music has been our way. It's been our way in, and it's been our way out. Right. Like literally, I think even too, like you was talking about, in your music. I'm gonna try not to butcher your name again.
Oh, good.
I'm about to butcher your name.
We all we got. We in it together.
but like even too, like, have you seen where, like, as a musician, where have you seen kind of where your music is kind of, I guess, impacted that young, I want to say creative, but just in general, that younger generation to just kind of see a different way?
Yeah, I've seen that directly. So over the course of the summer, I got an opportunity to run a songwriting poetry workshop.
Nice.
And it was just fire. The young people came through spitting fire, and we would have our daily ciphers and just talk about what's happening and how we want to articulate it with our words. And for me, it was healing. It was healing every time, because I just got to sit at their feet like this and learn every day. And I see that I'm pretty close to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the group Oshun. They're young hip hop heads doing it, and they're gaining a lot of buzz and visibility. And I'm pretty close to them personally, and we gotten a chance to influence each other through our connection and our music. So shout outs to them. Being multi-genric, and people saying, yo, I love how you put the patois in there, and you started with the hip hop, and they didn't know people like the ride that they feel. They don't know where it's going, but they know it's going to end up somewhere that's right. And I give thanks to be able to have all the experiences that I've had to impact the way that I express myself musically.
That was a very good question. And just swinging back to the youth, and you're actually doing those workshops and everything. Is that something that's ongoing, or was that just something that was like a limited run?
Nah, I mean, I do workshops with young people based on like a civic engagement platform where we talk about and deductively reason what's happening and
Okay.
finding their voice. And there was so much need for that with them being at home and not being in their regular day-to-day environment and experiencing something that quite honestly none of us have ever experienced that. Like we all been on some type of punishment, but it was like we all was on punishment at the same time, and trying to find and build a community online in that time was very powerful. So there was nothing like it. I give thanks for that space. They are ongoing. There's a fall series coming up that's going to be fly. And I'd also do workshops and poetry workshops and songwriting workshops for adults as well. Um,
Very cool.
yeah.
Yo, that's so cool because it's like you know to be able to get the attention and hold the attention of like teenagers,
Yeah.
you know, and just like younger, it's hard work,
And they
especially to
so
see what they
fly.
get hype
They
over.
so fly. They so fly. They are so fly. They're so smart. They're
Yeah,
so articulate. They're clear. They have the answers. I would tell them every day, yo, the answers for everything is right here. Everything that we need is right here. We have everything that we need. And they'll be like, word, word, we got everything we need. And they run with that. So shout out to all my young people doing it, finding your way, finding your voice, and in a world that's very different than the world that we grew up in. So shout out to y'all. Y'all got it. Y'all got it.
and before we get too far, I just want to do a second plug of the Black Root song. You
Hey,
know, so the other half of Black Roots, that's Black Mike, correct?
Mike Black. Yep.
Mike Black.
Yeah, brother.
Yo, Fall in Line. Fall in Line's in my playlist right now. So yeah,
Word.
we're definitely gonna be rocking that on the day to day.
That's
Um,
what's up.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so you like the vibe of Guam.
Hey, for real, for real. It's gonna be rocking. It's gonna be rocking on my let me see if I actually say what the playlist. It's gonna be rocking on my relaxation playlist.
Yeah, that's
Because good
line with
vibes all
yeah.
day.
Which I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what you was gonna say?
No, I was just saying that's good vibes, 100%. Plus, you're dropping knowledge on there.
Yeah,
Going back to what you're saying, knowledge yourself and being able to deliver that to people. It's cool to have like really dope music, but like you got really dope music and you're adding a message in there, not only for the people that are just learning, like the children, teenagers, stuff like that, but for people that kind of got left behind too. Because there's
right.
people that we got to mention them too. We got to mention the people that got left behind or that just didn't do the due diligence and now
Yeah,
they're starting to wake up. Because I think that's our nation as far as our community right now.
yeah. I mean, I call it spectrum music,
Hmm.
The one thing I like about listening to Bob Marley, right? Bob Marley, his message is going to reach the most deepest, complicated thinker, as well as the most simplest. Like there are so many access and entry points. There's like a lot of parable speak, a lot of proverb speak, a lot of do this, do that, a lot of moral. The moral of the story is kind of
Hmm.
speak. And I think that when there are multiple access points, everybody can find their way. And I think as an educator, that's kind of like how I was trained to be as a musician and vice versa. An educator by trade, like initially, and differentiating instruction so that everybody can have access. Everybody could get in where they fit in and find and take away something from it. And so there are those that are left behind. There are those that were intentionally left behind,
Yeah.
systemically left behind. Those that just kind of covered their ears because they had experienced too much trauma. And I'm not trying to hear nothing else right now. And that's understandable too, because our people have been through a trial, a serious trial. I think with Fall in Line, though, that was actually one of the last songs we recorded for that album, and we was just like, yo, we gotta speak about what we see. We gotta talk about it. And are we going to fall in line with their plan for us, or are we going to fall in alignment with our plan for ourselves? So that's kind of like the breakdown of it. So I'm glad you vibing to it, and I'm glad it made the playlist. That's
Hey, absolutely. You know, from the lyrics to the production down to the imagery, definitely appreciated that. Um, You know, for some of the people that are in there too, um, like I believe I seen Harriet Tubman in there. You were speaking about Harriet Tubman, not in this video, not in this video, this song. So in the My Jamaica video,
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm bouncing back and forth. It's
That's all
only because
good.
I'm I'm just thinking of just the two vibes, you know, matching the same thought, and that's, you know, to deliver this message. So also in the My Jamaica video, I remember seeing, you know, pictures of like Harriet Tubman, Haile Selassie, things like that. What would you, what reference point would you give um, into the music? You know, let me double down on this. Let me back up a little bit. So when talking about powerful individuals, people that spearheaded like this, the movements that they did, as far as with music, and as far as talking to the younger audience, if you're gonna give them somewhere to jump in and to learn about, you know, Haile Selassie, Harriet Tubman, and things like that, if you're gonna give something that's just simple, like how you said, a simple message,
Yeah.
where would you tell them to go to?
Well, personally, when I've introduced Haile Selassie, His Majesty, or Harriet Tubman, I start with something called like a quotation meditation.
Okay.
And I pull from one of their thoughts and put it into a current context and have them break it down. So that way they create their own intimate relationship with their ideas, with the ideas of this person that's supposed to be so big. And then my follow-up thought to that would be like, yo, everything that they got in them, you got in you. You got it too. We just all lead and manifest differently, and they just were put on a platform to be a bigger thing in life. But you have leadership capability too, and the fact that their message resonated with you and you were able to connect to it and then interpret it in your own words and put it in your own rhyme, that's fire. You fire. And that's how I usually bring historical ideologies, identities, because they're really not historical. They show up every day.
Yeah.
But Harriet said, "Man, I would have freed more slaves if, you know what I'm saying? Like if her ideology around that lives today, the same way that people feel like some of us embody and embed ideas that hold us back. I could have freed more slaves if they had only listened, if they would only realize. So I just take direct quotes from them and put it into a context where young people can have access to it and relate it to their day to day. Because it's all about their socio-political context, really. Like you could talk all this mess you want as a teacher, but it's all about their vantage point and how they see things from a socio-political perspective.
Yeah.
And I was just about to say too, you know, earlier we were talking about Bob Marley. You know, you just mentioned, you know, you're a teacher. You know, a big thing about, you know, we need more, you know, I'm glad people that are watching this are seeing this, because we need more people that are, you know, in order to be an effective teacher, you first got to be in the classroom, right? You know, and we need people that are literally going to be right on that level, you know, that is, you know, meeting someone where they are, and, you know, giving them the feed that they need to be fed
and valuing them. Like
there you go.
Kids got mad assets already. Like there's all kinds of level of mastery that they already have. You know what I'm saying? Down to my daughter, she could pick up the phone and doop, 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 doop. I'm like, yo, how you do that? How you get there? And she's not reading fluently yet, but just to be able to navigate. So that's an asset. That's a literacy. That's literacy based.
Yeah.
She's navigating a device that someone else that might be older than her, more experienced, wiser, would have a problem with, because that's the age that she's being brought into. And so bringing that as an asset, that level of mastery to the forefront, and utilizing that as a bridge to connect kids to whatever they need to learn or grasp to get to the next phase, I think is a valuable asset that an educator can embed in their practice.
Okay, very true.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. I'm loving it all, Doc, man. It's
It's good talking to y'all. It's really, really good talking to y'all. The music is important. It's important. It's been important to us from the beginning of time. You know, it's how we've told our stories. Like the same thing we could be nodding our head to right now in Zimbabwe, in Nigeria. They're bobbing their head to the same thing, and you see like this enormous influence of the music and how it's traveled worldwide. So we got to give thanks for that we are able to be translators and evoke spiritual message through word, sound, and power that people feel and grasp and get to know and relate to because of their own lived experience. That's powerful. That's us. That's who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, quick question. Okay, so with growing up and you know your mother doing what she's done and still doing,
Yeah.
shout out to the queen.
Okay.
Wow. Um, Something just pops in my head. You remember in Mo Better Blues, like when Denzel's character, like he never could go outside. He had
Yeah.
to always practice on the trumpet. No, you're not
Yeah.
going out there with them. Stay inside. Was it kind of like that?
Mhm.
I don't want to make it kind of like a two
Nah,
sided thing.
that's a
Like,
good
how
question.
exactly was it?
I, so I was born in Brooklyn and we lived in Flatbush. And my parents, shout out to my mom and my dad, um, they had a sound called Eastman Sound.
Mm-hmm.
And every day, almost every day, probably about 3 or 4 days out the week, our apartment on Flatbush and Westbury Court was filled with all the top artists of that time. So I'm talking about Barrington Levy. I'm talking about
Wow.
Sister Nancy. I'm talking about Skian Sachet Success. I'm talking about Shine. I'm talking about everybody comes in and they come and they juggle on the sound with my mom and my dad. So we be in the living room or in the other room doing homework while they was on the sound. And when they weren't on the sound, we were like messing around on the sound. So there was constant music around me all the time growing up. And I was very, very shy. I didn't really want to do music. My mom would be like, yo, you're good. You should try it. I'm like, nah, mommy, it's not a go right now. So I remember the first time I was even in the studio, I had my father stand up by the opening by the glass because I didn't want nobody to see me. I was super shy, but I was always writing. And then when I was 17 years old, her drummer at the time told me that he wanted to produce a group. And I'm like, yo, I'm with it, but I'm going to college. They got to be about it or I'm out. You know what I'm saying? And at that time, I was really like, I got to get this college. I played basketball too. So I was doing a lot of things, a lot of traveling. And we got in the studio and it was magic. It was kind of like a reggae, hip hop, R&B mix thing. And I did a lot of the writing and a lot of the arranging. And then some of the, after a while, the group kind of dissipated. And I was like, yeah, man, I know I have to do this with people that are serious and I really want to get it. So that was kind of like me formally, officially, but like growing up, I entered contests and did singing stuff on the radio and performed with my mom and did a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes. But when I was 17, I kind of fully stepped into it. I was like, all right, let's do this. We doing it. Let's do it. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. She never really forced us. It was never like, yo, you got to do this. You got to get on a mic. You can't do other things. Like I said, I played ball. I did this. I did that. I played softball. I coached. I did a lot of things, a lot of other extracurricular activities that kind of brought out a lot of leadership qualities and allowed me to see the world from different perspectives. But I'm glad she did it that way because when I found it, it was mine. It was like mine. It was like something that I had coined and created. I was influenced by all of these things around me. So I give thanks for that. And now it's like,
Sounds like she influenced your style of teaching too. She found a way to get through to you, even though you were shy.
yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't suspect a shy bone in your body
nah,
right
shy hell, like shy, like did not want to sing or rap or do anything in front of anybody because I don't know, I was just shy. And I think being an educator also helped me come out of my shell because, like you said, man, they know, young people know when you
No,
come to
they
them
can
and you're
smell it a
not,
mile away for
what?
sure.
Hmm.
Miss you capping right now. Like it's a
Right.
wrap. Like it's like they know. And so when you come real with them and you're authentic, they feel you and not only feel you, but they respond to that realness with real parts of them, which I think is important, you know?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So the basketball part, I'm excited about this because I play ball too, and I like ball.
Yeah.
So
What position you play?
I when I was a very young kid, I played a forward, but it's more like a point guard at this point.
Now it's the head game.
That's it. That's it.
Now it's the mental game. But yeah, I played ball. I played ball in high school. I played ball in college. I coached basketball.
That's
I used
dope.
to be the head coach at John Jay College. I worked with the NBA for about 4 years.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I was and am a fan. I think sports afford us to teach so many life skills.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know what it's like to be the top scorer on the team, the water boy. Like
I know what it is to be the top fouler on the team because
right, just grabbing it.
Jasper hacking everybody.
Exactly.
I'm the straight fouling guy right there.
Yeah. But I think it's important because you know how the wide spectrum of roles that contribute to one goal, getting the win or following the coach or following the strategy or the game plan. And I think that as a community, those things help us because we don't have social structures that are set up to kind of teach us those things. You got to take the L right now. You used to be the top scorer, but now you got to come off the bench. I'm going to come off the bench with fire. I'm not going to have hate in my blood when I'm coming off the bench. I'm really going to come and contribute to the team. Like, just to be able to see the different levels of how success is embedded in a process of everybody contributing is important.
Agreed.
Definitely.
So another basketball question: are you a traditional New York fan? Are you a Knicks fan? Are you a Brooklyn Nets fan, or just a team completely not New York?
No, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Like, I like in my relationship to my Knicks as just like a really abusive relationship, man. I just can't get it right. No matter how hard I try and I hold on, and I'm really trying to like hang in there. You keep doing me dirty. Like I can't, it's hard. But I was born and raised a Knicks fan. There's a lot of broken furniture in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of stuff went down, with the 94s and the 99s and I started watching the Knicks when Trent Tucker and them was there, and like when I was like 11 and came all the way up. So I really have to kind of stay away from it because it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's a part of me. But that's my team, ride or die. But I don't know. They're gonna have to shift some things up because Dolan's giving them some energy that I don't know about.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff happening in like the back office and just for ownership and stuff like that, and you talk about outside ownership like with Rock Nation Sports and things like that. So we're not only Rock Nation Sports, so like we also have the big three. So right now, with everything that's going on, with you having experience as a coach and as a player, and having an experience as a player to be a coach is always great. What would you say would be a good step right now if people don't want to be in the bubble, they want to go play for Jay, or they want to go play for Cube, and they just want to get people playing back right now? What would you do if you were in control of that and were able to start your own season right now?
Wow. So there's a lot of things happening. I love that young people are looking more at the options, like a HBCU, or I love that that's happening, right? Because I'm a student of sports, $40 million slaves and all of those concepts around how being an athlete meant that you took a social stance and how that evolved over time, because we're not going to have representation. So when we do have the shine, when we do have the spotlight or the platform, that's, in the vein of those players at that time, Jabbar and all of those major iconic stars that always brought social justice issues to the table and always fed that. You know, like 68 Olympics, like just utilizing your platform. So I love that. We have to financially be supported, and economics has to be a really significant part of the framing of the framework of that. Because if people aren't economically supported, they can't sustain. And that's important. We have to figure out if we are going to really pull away and create our own, which I'm totally in favor of. If structurally it works and the framework is there, we have to make sure that we can support and are supporting our own, always, all the time, because we have the most powerful dollar. Like our buying power is crazy. But what are we going to be supporting? What are we going to be putting our funds into? It has to be sustainable. It's tough, you know, being in a bubble, people getting sick, people trying to sneak people. Like you hear all these different things that are happening, and you're like, yo, you know. And sports is like a vacation. Like it allows you to kind of vacate what's happening in life. But then them as humans and players are dealing with life as well. And so I think there are multiple ways to look at it. But if there's a creation of something new, it has to be sustainable, and it has to work and sustainable first in a psychological perspective. Because once the mind is bought in, then everything else will follow and support. So I think it's a beautiful time, because there are a lot of new ideas that have been coming up over time, but people didn't really gravitate towards them. And so now people are grabbing them and thinking about them more, which I think is a good thing. People with power, people with influence are thinking about them more. And so I'm looking forward to see what happens. But, you know, I could get into sports and music all day.
Ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
I know, right?
Not at all. Hey, you can come back anytime with that, because that's basically the basis of us. That gaming, tech, you know, film.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of film, so as far as being writer, performer, how much of your hands do you put in the production, as far as with the video, as far as with you know, the music, like when it starts from the skeleton on?
Yeah, a lot, man, a lot. I think storyboarding. I went to school for radio and TV production. Shout out to William Patterson University.
Hey,
Hey,
Willie Pete. Willie Pete.
sir.
And I also went to school in California at Cal State Northridge. So
okay.
I was deeply immersed in film, radio, and TV always. As my major, I did some stuff with Sony Pictures and MSNBC and BET while I was around it. So I got to see that, do some stuff, and then come back and mix and match. Storyboarding, I think as an artist, when I'm creating a song, I'm already seeing visuals. I'm already seeing visibly what I would like to see, how I want to create it. I don't think that's everybody's process, but that's my process in particular. So I would say I play a large role in what visibly is produced, as well as like sonically, like what I hear, how I hear things fading in, fading out, what I want to hear louder. If I want to hear the drum, the snare a little bit harder, like, or, you know, all of those things. If I want the horns to be more pronounced because I want a theatrical impact, like all of, I guess it depends on who you ask. I'm not super meticulous, but I'm meticulous to a certain degree because I've listened to so much music and I know how I want my music to be conveyed and impactful. So,
as it should, yeah. You know, the bar is set very high when you come into somebody's studio. I can already understand that.
and I don't like a whole bunch of people. Sometimes I just like to sit in a corner of the studio and just listen. I don't like the whole. That makes me. What'd you say?
Straight to business. Like, I get it.
Yeah, and I sit down and I just listen. And
not only that, space is an instrument.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's that, see, space is an instrument.
Yeah.
And space, mental space as well as physical space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And energies. Sometimes you come in and some energy is there. You like, yo, you know what? Tonight might be not be the night to record this because the energy there is conflicting with your recording process. And so I'm glad you even brought that into the fold. Space being an instrument and
Yeah.
that being a key component. Um, and that energy, like sometimes you collaborating with somebody and the energy is just fire. It's like, let's do an album. And sometimes it's like, instead of, you know what I mean? But the one thing that I can say is because I think I'm a natural collaborator, it's very rare that it's like this. Cause
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a way to make sure that it gels and it becomes what it needs to, at least from my perspective, from my vantage point. I'm gonna try to hold it down for the collaborators and the creatives.
But when you got people that really understand the bigger picture in the end, when they separate, the purpose from them and just see themselves as a resource to help that purpose get fulfilled, then that's when the real creativity really manifests because you can, like you said, you can be in the studio butting heads all day long,
Right.
but I mean, it doesn't do diddly nothing if nobody receives anything, no message is given, no work is done.
Right. And business is business and personal stuff. Sometimes you have a personal relationship with the person that you're creating with, and sometimes it's just business. And
Mm.
sometimes they come to do their part and you do your part, and then whoever has the sign off or the okay on the song says, yo, that verse was hot. I'm gonna do my verse over behind your back, or I'm gonna change this up, I'm gonna switch this up, I'm gonna give you 8 bars because you're trying to go off, you know what I mean? Whatever. However that happens, but all you can do as an artist is show up and
Mm.
show out. That's all you can do. You show up, you show out, and you let the universe do the rest because you've done your part. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
That's crazy that you brought that up too, because that was actually going to lead into something that I wanted to consult you about. So, when it comes to that, it sounds like a large part of that has to do with paying dues and stuff like that. Now, I can imagine that it wasn't taken easy on you, like because you already said that how it would be on certain days and how you came up and everything. So um just one good word to the aspiring artists out there as far as paying dues and having patience, if you don't mind.
There is nothing that you will achieve that will come quick.
Mm.
Like there is nothing that you will achieve of great value that will come to you quickly without some sort of paying dues, without some sort of learning the craft, sitting at the feet of the masters, understanding how sound even travels through a studio so that when you mix in your own joint with your Logic or your Pro Tools, you know how sound transforms with your voice. You know how your voice is an instrument. But if you just trying to get it and get it quick, it's not gonna work. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the effort, the energy. What is it? The 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe you not on that. Maybe you're not on your 10,000 hours flow, but you got to put in the time and you got to put in FaceTime and get information from someone that knows because you don't know it all. You have information and it should be received and respected, but nothing of value, of great value, is going to be an easy process or happen overnight just like that. That doesn't equate. And some people might feel different, might even have a lived experience that's differently, but in the end, you'll see their longevity or their sustainability is questionable if it happens like that because the work to support those things along the way wasn't put in. Luckily for me, I was able to be around my mom and my dad, and I saw how they moved, how we moved as a family through the industry, and things that came up that allowed for me to say, okay, if this was me, or when things like that came up in my life as a young adult or an adult, I was like, okay, I understood because I had seen it up close and personal,
Mm-hmm.
firsthand, and I'd seen how it was dealt with, and I'd seen success out of it. which is important. I think it's important to model yourself after success. Like there should be some sort of mentorship, some sort of leadership, and you have that to consult with as you're fine tuning your own process, which I think is important.
And just to piggyback off of that point, question that I would give out to those creatives that are saying, you know what, I'm out here, I want the mentorship, I want the leadership, you know, I want the guidance. I'm just, you know, kind of lone on the trail by myself. What would you advise to them?
I think that there's being alone, right? Like you kind of like isolated on your own island, but with an entity like entertainment, it is important to connect to someone. It is important to connect to something that's going to afford you a space. You know, we all know networking and people knowing people and meeting people, and that's like not my favorite thing in the world, but I think it's important. It's important. Relationships are everything. Relationships are the way of the world. I love meeting people and connecting with people. I don't like the intentional idea of going out to do a false thing. I like when synergy is just natural and organic, but I understand the importance because relationships are everything. Relationship will get you a foot in the door. A relationship will allow for you to be heard and seen and experienced in a way that someone else might not. And so there is a necessity to connect with folks. It is important, especially with something as spiritual as music. There has to be a connection. You got to kind of tap in, and you got to tap in where you feel safe and where you feel heard. Because a lot of situations it might feel like it's welcoming, but you know you still got to tap in with a sense of scrutiny, like feeling things out and not just kind of jump in for every great opportunity that you think is presented. So you have to have some sense of discernment. Like you have to really be able to look and see and sift and filter and feel through, you know?
I think it's probably fair to say, you know, just going off of that, that if you mess up a lot, you might mess up a lot with this as far as discernment, and we just got to be honest with ourselves for those that are watching. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
You don't know till you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right?
No, and you don't know
You gotta factor in your personality, who you are, and all of that
right,
stuff,
and
and
how right you are every time, but you're not really, you know, what's your ego about? Like how much can you let go of being right or like the need to be right? And there are things that we all have experienced that be like, yo, I know what that's like. I ain't gonna do that again. I'm not gonna go down that road again. So, you know, you don't know until you know, but you grab on to some sort of collaborative mentorship so that you don't have to make the mistakes that you don't have to make. You know what I'm saying? Like if
very true.
There's a lot of things I've seen people do, and I'm like, yep, I'm not doing that. Because you know what I'm saying? And then and it works out when you listen to life. Like you have to listen to life and read into life. Like that didn't work out for them. That might not be the way to go. So you learn from your own mistakes and you learn from the mistakes of others to fine tune your experience. That's how I would approach it being a young person today, because it's so different. You can put out a single tonight on DistroKid, United Masters, Tune. You can do it tonight. It's very different. And so when you're empowered like that, you know, with power breeds a lot of things. So what are you utilizing your power to do? Who are you tapping into to maximize your reach and your power? Those things are important.
There has to be a purpose behind the power, right?
Yeah, because it could easily be taken away if you invested in the wrong thing or the wrong person or the wrong entity. You know, power is a trippy sword. It can put you on a trip, and you have to understand that power has to have a dose of humility in order for it to be actualized its greatest amount and its widest reach, to be as expansive as it can be. And that means learning and going back and reading and reconnecting and retooling and refining every time. So
Very powerful, very true. We we appreciate all of those words, and I'm very sure that our viewers are gonna appreciate those too. Um, I would also like you to close out with sharing your social media, how to get in contact with you, how to stay up on what you're doing, and also so that they can not only stream your music and Black Roots music as well, but to go ahead and purchase, because we know that's a big thing, is being an indie artist and out there pushing for yourself as well.
right. Give thanks, man. I'm thankful for the platform. I can be reached on social media on Facebook at Nakeeba Amaniyea. That's Nakeebaroots. But more, I guess, easily on IG, it's Nakeebaroots at Nakeebaroots, Nakeebaroots. And on both of those platforms, there's like a link tree so that you can access. My new single just came out featuring Sister Carol, My Jamaica, and the video is out right now. And then Black Roots' first single, Fall in Line. With regards to my educational stuff, you can connect with me at YEYEXNYC. X NYC, which is my consulting company. And we do really amazing work with young people and adults and professional and communal spaces. I'm thankful for and honored and privileged to be able to spend some time with y'all. I love that y'all love the music. I love that. I love the conversation and the context of that, because I feel like we need to be able to converse like this. People need to see people conversing and sharing and exchanging ideas. So I give thanks for the platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your contributions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Give thanks. I appreciate you all. And I'm sending y'all mad love. So much love and light. And get that My Jamaica and that Fall in Line. It's available on all platforms, on your Apples, your Titles, your Spotify's. It's everywhere.
Absolutely.